Hello everyone! We conducted our final marketing research on consumer perceptions of Disney live-action movie remakes. This is from Angel Brecht, Grace Gerganius, and Morgan Sauer.
Our team decided to study why there is such a stark difference between consumer preferences of Disney original animated and Disney live-action remake films. To test these hypotheses, 3 interviews were conducted on Disney fans over blue jeans and consisted of a series of 24 questions, with the interviews lasting about 30 minutes each. While the first 2 interviewees leaned towards preferring DOA over DLAR, they did not come to a concrete decision, whereas the last interviewee said that they preferred DLAR over DOA. Through market research, as a team, the contributors of this paper asked why there is such a stark difference between Disney original animated and Disney live-action remake film preferences. The purpose of this research is also to get an understanding if, in general, DOA films are preferred over DLAR and why that is. The research used to create the hypotheses in part consisted of consumer reviews from Rotten Tomatoes and blogs, as well as press releases on how the DLAR films were received. It was important to look at what the consumers were saying about the film rather than what the critics were saying to get an accurate understanding of consumers' perceptions of them.
Secondary research. Here are the key findings in our secondary research that helped in the development of our problem statement, research question, research objective, and our hypotheses. These points acted as the base for our research decisions. In this research, we learned that 91% of remakes received less positive consumer review ratings than the original. According to consumers, the transition between the original and the live action is a watered-down version and it lacks originality. Other consumers feel that they have a deep connection with the original film and story, so they feel that there isn't any reason to change it. We also discovered that consumers have preference for the actors in a movie depending on their familiarity with the actor. A factor that determines personal preference and film success is enjoyment level. In order for a film to be successful, there must be original characters even in the remakes of the movie. And lastly, that the perceptions of a movie's success is not entirely determined by the North American market. Research objectives. Based on the secondary research shared in the previous slides, we developed our research problem statement, research question, and research objective. First, let's cover the abbreviation key to the right of the slide. MG refers to movie genre, DOA refers to Disney Original Animated, and DLAR refers to Disney live-action remakes. Throughout our presentation, you will see these abbreviations being used. Now to the objectives. The problem statement of this study is, why is there such a stark difference between the people who do and do not like Disney live-action remakes? The research question is, what are the perceived differences between DOA and DLARs? The research objective is to gain an understanding between Disney Original Animated and Disney live-action remake perceptions. Research hypotheses. Through our research, we established 3 hypotheses. Below each of the hypotheses, you will see the secondary research that supports these hypotheses. All sources were shared previously, and here it just acts as a connecting visual. Hypothesis 1 is DOA is preferred over the DLAR. Hypothesis 2 is the perception of character originality is positively related to the consumer film preference. And hypothesis 3 is there is a higher positive perceptions of DOA movies than DLAR movies. Research methods and tools of the interview. To gain a better understanding of the consumer's perception and behavior relating to the consumption of DOA movies and their DLAR, we conducted qualitative research. This qualitative research analysis utilized a descriptive and exploratory interview methodology, specifically focusing on consumer perception and behavior. The interviews took place between November 20th and 23rd. We utilized the collaboration tool BlueJeans in order to conduct our interviews. The tools we used included an informed consent document, which confirmed our interviewees understood the nature of the study, the risks, and overall agreed to participating. The second tool we used was the interview script. Each researcher conducted their own individual interview, so the script was helpful in preventing major discrepancies across the way in which they were conducted. And lastly, we developed a questionnaire, which you will see in the next slide. Here you can see screenshots of the interview informed consent document, interview script, and interview questionnaire. Before conducting our interviews, we pre-screened the potential participants by asking, "Do you have an interest in Disney movies?" Those that passed the pre-screening question were then requested to participate in the interview. The interview took approximately 30 minutes and consisted of 24 questions, 10 of which were repeating questions asked in relation to DOA and DLAR. As you can see, we organized the questions into 3 sections: DOA questions, DLAR questions, and DOA and DLAR questions combined. The target demographic for our interview were men and women who were at least 18 years old and who have watched an original Disney animated movie and its live-action remake, and who have an interest in Disney movies in general. Cost and timetable of the interview. On the left, you can see the timetable from the development and the implementation of our interviews. The tasks included developing the interview questions, developing a way of organizing and measuring, having the interview approved, recruiting the participants, conducting the interviews, individual data collection and organization, and finally the analysis and synthesis of the data together. The next slide will further explain our qualitative analysis results. I will now cover the costs. To conduct the interviews, it did not require many costs. The main cost was personal time. The reason we did not have any additional costs is because our team was using our own resources that did not require any additional costs besides our personal time. Resources we utilized included data organization applications such as Excel, Word, and other Microsoft Office applications. We did not have to rent out any physical spaces to conduct our research. So overall, the costs were minimal.
When researching H1, 2/3 of the respondents all agreed that they look at the DOA storyline and use it to compare to the DLAR. However, this does not mean that the DOA is indefinitely preferred over the DLAR. The remaining 1/3 respondent states that the DLAR is actually preferred over the DOA because the DOA seems to have the same plot and is boring. We are unable to conclude that H1 is proved or disproved until further research is conducted. In H2, through conducting qualitative interviews, the research team has concluded that 2/3 of respondents confirmed that perception of character originality was positively related to consumer film preferences. 1/3 of interviews could not definitely prove the hypothesis. In H3, the respondent that agreed with the hypothesis said that if they took the original movie that was important to them and ruined it, it was a big disappointment. The respondent that did not agree with the hypothesis overall enjoyed DLAR films more than DOA, preferring seeing a fresh take on a familiar story. The respondent that was inconclusive would get excited about the new DOA and new DLAR films equally.
The results of our interview findings were limited and inconclusive due to being a qualitative research tool. To further find more conclusive results, the next steps for this study is to conduct a survey. To better examine the relationship of our research variables, we will conduct quantitative research. This quantitative analysis will utilize a descriptive survey methodology. The survey method used in this study will be an electronic internet survey, specifically by using the survey software Qualtrics. The survey will be designed as a structured questionnaire which will consist of predetermined questions. The types of questions being surveyed will be based on our research variables. Specifically, we want to include questions that ask the surveyor to select characteristics from a list which they feel describe a successful Disney animated movie and Disney live-action movie. The methodology of the next steps will be an electronic survey via Qualtrics. The survey includes multiple scale questions such as all that apply, interval scales, Likert scales, ratio scale, and nominal measure questions. The documents along with the survey will be the consent document, questionnaire, and code sheet. Here is a screenshot example of some of our survey questions. These questions allow us to compare our variables and examine the relationship they hold with one another, which ultimately allows us to get closer to answering our research question. Other characteristics that are questioned in our survey will be determined based on our interview results and through our secondary research. To analyze the survey, we will review the multiple questions and responses and graph out conclusions using charts, graphs, and other visual graphics. Our study had multiple limitations. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, the researchers were unable to meet face-to-face in person with the interviewees. The interviews had to be conducted virtually over BlueJeans, a video chat system. While the researchers were able to view the interviewees' faces, this limited the researchers being able to read body language and other movement. Conducting the interviews virtually also meant that there was room for technological difficulties. This happened multiple times during the interviews. There were scratching noises and blurry screens. This disrupts a smooth process of having transitions into questions and also hearing answers clearly. Overall, the interviews conducted yielded results. However, the limitation is that only 3 separate interviews were conducted. The interviewees were all between the ages of 20 to 23 years old, 1 male and 2 females. This is not a widely represented sample and has limited down results to only including 3 individual opinions and perspectives. Next, due to the pace of the class, the limitations also included the inability to conduct further research using a survey and experiment. The method of using a survey is discussed in the next steps section above. After conducting secondary research on the Walt Disney Company, creating research objectives and hypotheses, and conducting our primary research, we hope you have learned something new about consumer perceptions on Disney live-action remakes.